When the people stand up, imperialism trembles. Thomas Sankara was born on December 21, 1949, in Yako Upper Volta, now known as Burkina Faso. From a young age, he showed discipline and brilliance. He joined the military at 19, one of the few institutions where Africans could rise under post-colonial regimes, and studied in Madagascar, where he witnessed student uprisings and socialist movements. By the early 1980 ES, Sankara had become a charismatic military officer with revolutionary ideas. In 1983, at just 33 years old, he was appointed prime minister, but his radical views quickly alarmed the ruling elite and their French allies. He was arrested, but that move backfired. On August 4, 1983, a coup led by his friend and comrade Captain Blaise Compaoré freed him and installed him as the president of Upper Volta. He immediately began dismantling colonial-era systems and renamed the country Burkina Faso, meaning land of upright people. Sankara's mission was clear independency, promote self-reliance, and liberate the African mind from centuries of exploitation. His ideology was anti-imperialist, pan-African, feminist, environmentalist, and revolutionary. He believed Africa's poverty was a deliberate result of colonization and capitalist exploitation. Aid from the West was a form of control, not help. African countries must work together to refuse to pay colonial debt. True freedom came through owning land, producing food, and breaking mental chains. He who feeds you controls you. Debt is a cleverly managed reconquest of Africa. The Burkinabe people. Sankara quickly won massive support from peasants, youth, and women. He lowered salaries of government officials, including his own, sold off government Mercedes cars, replacing them with modest Renault 5s, wore military fatigues and rode a bicycle or drove himself, promoted local fabrics and abolished the French-imposed dress code. He was called Africa's Che Guevara in honor of the Cuban guerrilla leader, but to many Burkinabe, he was simply the people's president. Other African leaders, many admired Sankara privately but feared his ideas would spark uprisings in their own countries. His refusal to obey France and other Western powers made him a target. His call for African nations to unite against colonial debt was seen as dangerous, especially by elites tied to foreign interests. The West France in particular was deeply unsettled. Burkina Faso, once a compliant post-colonial state, was now leading a revolution in thought and policy. Sankara cut ties with the IMF and World Bank, refused foreign aid, and spoke openly about French exploitation. Burkina Faso was one of the poorest countries in the world, landlocked, dry, and largely illiterate. But Sankara refused to beg. His approach: let's count on our own strength, redistribute land from landlords to peasants, launch a nationwide reforestation campaign to fight desertification, invest heavily in local agriculture and self-sufficiency, promote women's rights as a cornerstone of development, resources: cotton, often called white gold, livestock, modest mineral reserves. Sankara's goal was to build from the ground up using what they had, and to inspire other African nations to do the same. In just 4 years, school attendance skyrocketed. Vaccination campaigns immunized 2.5 million children in weeks. Over 10 million trees were planted. 7,000 villages got new water sources. Women were appointed to high government posts and encouraged to join the military. Forced marriages and female genital mutilation were banned. He created public works programs, housing for the poor, and encouraged local textile production over foreign luxury imports. Impact on Africa. Sankara became a symbol of African dignity, pride, and defiance. He challenged the idea that Africa must always wait for help. His speeches at the OAU and the UN electrified audiences. Internal forces. Sankara moved too fast and alienated the traditional elite, wealthy merchants, and even parts of the military. His refusal to compromise made him enemies, including some who once supported him. He cut salaries, taxed the rich, and reduced perks for civil servants, earning resistance from powerful insiders. He created local committees for the defense of the revolution, CDRs, which sometimes clashed with communities and were seen as repressive. External forces. France was unhappy with his anti-colonial stance and feared his example would spread. He called out foreign exploitation by name, including at global summits. There is credible suspicion that France was involved in his elimination, either directly or by supporting those close to him. The betrayal. On October 15, 1987, Thomas Sankara was assassinated by soldiers in a coup led by his former friend, Blaise Compaoré. His body was riddled with bullets and buried in an unmarked grave. Compaoré claimed Sankara was dividing the country, but the truth was clear: a leader too honest for the system had been removed. Compaoré reversed many of Sankara's reforms, reopened ties with the IMF, and ruled as a dictator for 27 years. But Sankara's legend only grew. Today, his speeches circulate widely on social media. Statues of him are raised across Africa. Youth in Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, and South Africa wear his image. In 2021, Compaoré was finally tried in absentia for Sankara's murder. Sankara's dream lives, not in governments but in the hearts of a generation. Self-reliance must be more than a slogan. Sankara showed that Africa can feed and heal itself if it uses its wealth wisely. Today, African countries spend billions importing rice and vaccines, the same things Sankara made locally. Debt is control, he warned. If we don't pay the debt, our creditors won't die, but if we do, our people will. Today, African nations owe over $800 billion in debt. Many struggle to pay salaries while sending money to creditors. Liberation requires cultural change. He replaced suits with Faso Danfani, local fabric, to rebuild pride. African youth today must reclaim language, dress, and values as part of economic freedom. Protect leaders who speak truth. We must protect Ibrahim Traore. Sankara was betrayed by someone close, as were Lumumba and Gaddafi. Real changemakers need movements, not just admiration. They must not be left isolated. Sankara said, "The revolution cannot triumph without the liberation of women. Women are not optional in development. Africa still ranks low in gender equality. A future Africa must include the full inclusion of women." Thomas Sankara didn't lead with fear. He led with fire, honesty, and courage. His life poses questions that every young African must answer. Why is it that when a leader serves the people, he becomes a threat? Why do those who steal from Africa live long, while those who give to their people die young? If Sankara could do all that in 4 years with so little, what could we do now with so much? Thomas Sankara, he who feeds you controls you. Thomas Sankara, debt is a cleverly managed reconquest of Africa. Like and subscribe to join us in remembering African heroes and supporting today's boldly empowered leaders.